Welcome to Total Health Television. This is Total Health Magazine. I'm John Barson. Today's program is brought to you by the Body Health Analyzer, utilizing heart rate variability to help you analyze your health, track chronic illness, and much more, especially the biofeedback breathwork training module, which includes Zen breathing, yoga breathing, deep breathing, and RSA deep breathing. Now, this platform is currently on Windows, but is coming to iOS and Android soon. So if you'd like to be notified of that, and also what we're doing on upcoming shows, do us a favor and click subscribe below and click the bell so you get all the notifications of the show. And if you like today's show, give us a thumbs up. We'd really appreciate that because it, of course, helps us with the YouTube algorithm. So today's show is really an important show. It's going to be the second in a series we're doing on Chlorella, a plant that I love, and especially now that I know where to get the best Chlorella on the planet. But today is about something else that has really been toxic to the entire planet, to humans, to the environment, and to animals, and that is glyphosate. So today, Chlorella is a superhero for glyphosate detoxification. Keep that in mind as we get going here. I want to start off with something I got from EWG just the other day, and that is, coincidentally, as I was preparing to do the show and looking into herbicides and pesticides, I got the latest Dirty Dozen and Clean 15. Now, this is something that the EWG researches to find the healthiest and the most toxic foods to help us in our produce shopping. So here they are, the Dirty 12. Darn it, my favorite greens are at the top of the list here: spinach, kale, collard, and mustard greens. And this is from the worst to the least worst. All bad on the Dirty Dozen. But they also give us the Clean 15. As you can see here, we've got avocados, sweet corn, and so on. Now, avocados, the great thing about avocados is they're hard shell, so the pesticides aren't absorbed into the avocado meat, as it were. And I actually want to give you a little avocado tip here. When I go shopping for my stuff, I find that in the stores I'm shopping in, they put the organic avocados and you don't need to buy organic avocados. That's the nice thing about them. So if you're buying organic avocados, you're paying a little bit more, but you don't really need to. But avocados, they keep them in the refrigerator section, and here's the tip from living in Mexico for years. Don't stick them in the fridge when you bring them home. Let them ripen on the counter and then take them and stick them in the fridge so that they last longer. They don't turn that horrible brown color and get all those brown spots. So that's my tip for the day, but we've got a lot more for you in the way of tips because of this topic of glyphosate, and our resident research expert, Dr. Sherrill Sellman, joins me today. Hi, Sherrill. Welcome to the show.
Hey, John. Great to be here once again.
Well, we've been talking a lot about this Chlorella since you found out about Biogenesis and the fantastic product that they're growing up in northern Australia. Because that's, again, we talked about this in the last show. As I said, this is the second in the series. But one of the things that I loved about this is the fact that I really kind of avoided Chlorella in the past because most of it's grown either in vats or comes from China. And we're not talking about that here. We're talking about a pristine algae. And if you could do us all a favor, because we went into the sort of the wide-ranging impacts of Chlorella in the first show, can you sort of give us a thumbnail sketch of Chlorella off the top here before we get into the meat of the show?
Oh, yes, I'd be happy to. Chlorella is this one-cell algae, and it's like this miracle one-cell organism that we've been given. And especially now that we have the technology to access all of the nutrition. So Chlorella is like your multivitamin, a multi-mineral, and a whole lot more all in one. So it is a nutrient-dense source of nutrition. It has a full complement of vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin D. It has all the B vitamins, including B12, which is really good for those who are following a vegan or vegetarian diet. It has omega-3s. It has the carotenoids, lutein and zeaxanthin, which is good for the eyes. It has omega-3. It has highly absorbable forms of protein. It has all the minerals you could want: magnesium, calcium, potassium, phosphorus. The list goes on and on. Incredibly absorbable form of iron. And it has another feature called Chlorella growth factor, which is a complex found inside the nucleus, which is regenerating tissues, regenerating skin, regenerating your DNA and RNA, and boosts your immune system. I can tell you the list goes on and on about why this is such a super nutrition option for people, because it's complete and it is easily absorbed and assimilated. So it's pretty remarkable. And by the way, the other thing that we will talk about in more depth about chlorella today is that it has the capacity to detoxify the body of heavy metals, of pesticides, all sorts of other toxins, uranium, radiation exposure. And today we're going to talk about its ability to detoxify glyphosate, the herbicide glyphosate.
Well, I was quite familiar with chlorella's ability to detoxify heavy metals and whatnot, but when I found out that it could actually detoxify glyphosate, I had to do this show. So let's, for our viewers again, let's talk about glyphosate. Why is it such a problem, and what are some of the impacts that it's having on us?
Well, glyphosate is an herbicide. It was first released into the world in 1974. So since 1974, we've been using glyphosate. And I have some statistics here. In the United States, they have sprayed 3.5 billion pounds of glyphosate on the land and on crops. And throughout the world, since it was released, it has sprayed 18.9 billion, that's billion pounds. So what's happened is that glyphosate is the most popular herbicide ever created in the history of humanity. And as a result of these billions and billions of pounds of glyphosate that it's sprayed on food, our food, the crops, it has permeated the entire ecosystem. It's gone into the tributaries, it has gone into our tap water. Glyphosate, interestingly enough, I just learned this, is because it's sprayed on corn, is also an ethanol. So when you use ethanol, you're actually releasing glyphosate into the air. So it's in the air. We're breathing it, where it's falling down through the rain onto the ground. So it has really permeated the entire ecosystem. So that's the story. And as we learn more about glyphosate, it's a horror story actually, because we are seeing profound consequences from exposure to glyphosate, not least of which is the fact that the International Agency for Research on Cancer has listed glyphosate as a probable human carcinogen. It really should be an absolute human carcinogen, but there are a few points that were missing in the research, so they put it into the probable. So it is a carcinogen as well.
Oh, when they
and
did
many
that,
other things, which we can touch on.
Yeah, some countries started reducing and even banning the use of glyphosate, but of course not here. And the Environmental Working Group, which gave us the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, they've done a lot of work exposing glyphosate, especially in our products and in our foodstuffs. They found that glyphosate in every sample of popular oat-based cereal and other. Oh, by the way, I'm quoting Dr. Sherrill Sellman from her article in Total Health magazine here. And oat-based cereal, other oat-based food marketed to children, was also found in baby food. Even some organic foods have tested positive for glyphosate, and non-GMO foods. Those are the foods that have the little butterfly label on them in the store. You're looking, oh, it's non-GMO, that's got to be good for me. Not necessarily, because, well, we'll get into that in a little bit. The most disturbing for me, however, was when they analyzed like a whole range of California wines. They found that even the organic wines had glyphosate. So I literally
it's in the
will only
water
buy,
system.
Yeah, I would only buy wine from countries that actually don't use glyphosate. But yes, it's in the water system.
Not too many of those.
No, but
Yeah,
there's probably still some levels, but it'll be less.
Yeah, so what we need to understand is not only is it sprayed as an herbicide to reduce the growth of weeds and crops, but it is It is used as a desiccant. So what happens is that at the end of the harvest season, they spray glyphosate over the crops, whether it's wheat or oats or barley or whatever. In fact, 70 crops are sprayed with glyphosate, by the way. Um, and it accelerates the drying out of that crop. So then they can put it into the combine and get it on its way without risk of either drying it or mold, whatever. So what happens is that we have this double dose of glyphosate. It's used when they're growing it, and then they spray it as this desiccant, and then it goes right into the grains that are milled and finds its way into all the foods, all the cereals, all the breads. But because it's also sprayed on 70 different forms of vegetables and grains, it's become ubiquitous.
No, I have a question about. I have a question about that. So I know that the USDA organic label correct me if I'm wrong. Only 95% of the product has to be organic. They are still allowed some leeway as to non-organic components. Is that also an issue?
I've heard that, so I can't absolutely confirm it, but I have heard.
Okay.
Yes, there is a little loophole there.
They
But
like their
if it's in the
loopholes.
groundwater, yeah, if it's in the, think about it, if it's in the groundwater, it will show up if you're watering your fields, right? Unless you have some way to purify that water. So even if it falls as rain, it's hitting the ground and getting absorbed. So that's what's happened. Our entire ecosystem is connected. And because we have sprayed this 18.9 billion pounds around the planet, it's now everywhere and it's getting
Right.
into everything. So what does that mean? What does that mean for our health? Okay, you want to know what it means for our health?
Well,
Here's what it means for our health.
maybe we don't want to know. Won't sleep tonight.
No, we have to know, because if we don't
Yes.
know, we can't take action, right? So
Right.
unfortunately, ignorance is not bliss these days. I wish it were, but it isn't. So it was always assumed that glyphosate was safe for humans because in the research that was done on glyphosate, it said it only affects a certain pathway in plants called the shikimate pathway, and it says it's not affected through the human process. But what they didn't understand is that pathway that kills the plants is the same pathway that will kill the good microbiome in our gut. So the exposure to glyphosate, for some reason, particularly goes after the good microbiome. So we have trillions of microbiome, we have all kinds, but the good ones keep everything else in check in their place. If you destroy the good ones, then you have an overgrowth of the bad microbiome, those that shouldn't proliferate, and they emit toxins and start damaging our guts, damaging the walls of our gut, leading to more leaky gut, leading to more autoimmune diseases and toxicity in our blood, and compromising our immune system, and it goes on and on. So it actually attributes, and I was having a profound conversation with a woman named Kelly Ryerson the other day, and she's known as Glyphosate Girl, and that's her website if people want to learn more, who has been, her health was devastated from exposure to glyphosate. And she discovered that this was the prime reason why she was, compromised in so many ways. And in her research, she found that the rise of food allergies, gluten intolerance, the rise of leaky gut, of colitis, IBS, all these gut issues corresponded with the release of glyphosate in the environment in the mid 1970s. Which is interesting because I always thought through my research it had to do with how we hybridized our wheat. But that was done in the 50s, and she said nothing really showed up in the gut issues with people until glyphosate came into being and was sprayed so ubiquitously. So we do have an epidemic of gut issues, and that's pretty important because if your gut is damaged, you have an overgrowth of the bad gut guys due to glyphosate killing the good microbiome, your gut can then, with these bad microbiome, these dysbiosis forms, can actually influence the brain because there's a direct correlation to the brain. So now we're seeing an increase in Parkinson's, MS, and Alzheimer's, which research is saying is caused by glyphosate exposure getting into the brain. So that's
Ouch.
pretty serious, right?
Well,
But I want to mention one
yeah.
other thing. Oh, John.
But wait, there's more.
When we
Okay. Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's more, and what I'm about to share is what I learned, particularly from my conversation with Kelly the other day. So it's an endocrine disruptor. And I've actually written a lot about endocrine disruptors over the years. Glyphosate is a very powerful endocrine disruptor, and they have done research with the women in the midway of their pregnancy, looking at their fetus, and there is definitely abnormal endocrine glands being created. There is a tendency in these female fetuses to have genitalia that move more into more male-like characteristics, and maybe more testosterone happening in these female fetuses from exposure that their mothers have while it's in utero with their mom. So we're seeing major hormone disruption going on. Now, it's not just in humans, by the way. It's affecting animals and
Well, I remember the
these,
study on frogs. I'm pretty sure it was frogs that they found that were going through that same process.
well, it's miscarriages in cattle and in pigs. I mean, so it's the people who are raising the animals of husbandry that through glyphosate exposure is affecting their animals as well. Because again, it's ubiquitous, it's in the environment. So, and by the way, this was also interesting. Glyphosate was approved as an antibiotic. It was approved to be used as an antibiotic. Shock horror. So, as we know, antibiotics will definitely go in there and destroy the good microbiome and set up disastrous consequences. So there you have it.
So,
by the way, there was a study done, John, of 80% of the samples of the people that were tested, and there was a majority of young children, showed significant levels of glyphosate in their blood. 80%.
and of course, one of the favorite comebacks from people on the other side of the fence is, hey, correlation isn't causation. They just happen to mirror the growth.
The United States government, the Australian government, the Canadian government, perfectly safe. They are all stating it is perfectly safe to be using glyphosate. And when I was talking to Kelly, she was in the heartland, and she was visiting these farms that were growing corn. And when she looked at the soil, she said the soil was dead because it destroys the microbiome in the soil, which is essential for creating a healthy living environment. And so imagine since 1974, spraying glyphosate on your land, it will kill all the life in the land. She said that soil looked like just clay, dead. And of course, then you have to apply more and more chemicals. And there are super weeds that are developing, pretty intelligent. These weeds are going around the glyphosate story, so they don't get knocked out anymore with glyphosate. So now Bayer is creating, the manufacturer of glyphosate is creating a super GMO plant that is able to be resilient, protected against 5 different herbicides that they will soon be spraying because they can't control the weeds that have mutated and genetically rearranged themselves to overcome the glyphosate assault. It never ends. It never ends.
I just had a thought. Maybe the farmland that Bill Gates is buying up left and right is farms that were not exposed to glyphosate. So he's looking for the remaining healthy ground to grow more
So industrialized agriculture is a curse. It's a curse for us, and it's devastating. And so that's the bad news. This is what is. This is what is. This is where we've come to, which is why it's so urgent to inspire farmers to look into regenerative agriculture and organic, and revive the land, and not be dependent on all these chemicals, because once you're an industrialized farmer, you're kind of hooked into that system. It's really hard to get out because of the seeds you're using, and because of
Right.
what you've done to the land that makes it more vulnerable to these things. So anyway, that's the result of our industrialized agricultural world.
Well, I read a
And
study.
as a
I read a study a few
consequence,
years ago from Britain, and they in that particular study, can't remember where I found it. I'll see if I can find it and put a link below the video. But the study showed that organic and small farming, regenerative farming, was considerably more productive than industrial farming. So imagine if governments put effort into helping smaller farmers develop regenerative farming, they would increase the food supply and everybody would be healthier. But they don't lobby the government, so.
yes, wouldn't that be nice? So that's that's the bad news. I mean, those are the facts that we're facing, and that's why we need to talk about chlorella, because
So
more than
yes,
ever, and more than ever, the role of chlorella is vitally important for our health, because, and that's why I called it the superhero, because when I was looking at chlorella and all the benefits you get from chlorella, not just the total nutritional profile, but all of the benefits, which we'll get into, it truly is a superhero to help us during this time that we're in, because we're all polluted. We all have exposure to pesticides, chemicals, and we're exposed to literally thousands and thousands of chemicals every day in our home, outside of our home. So we need to be aware that it's essential to support the body to detoxify. So there are lots of products out there that can help with detoxification. That's a whole shelf when you go to the health food store. But chlorella is the only food that I know that actually provides the total nutrition. We can truly live on just chlorella, because it is such a full complement of vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids, prebiotics, supporting the production of glutathione to help with detoxification, antioxidants, anti-inflammatories. I mean, it's all in that little package of one cellular organism. But it also has another unique feature. It has the capacity to detox our body of, as we said, heavy metals, of pesticides, of even uranium. If you've had exposure to radiation, that was amazing to me. If anyone's going to get any x-rays, you want to get chlorella. It'll pull that energy out of your body. But it has successfully been able to detoxify glyphosate, because what chlorella is able to do is, first of all, it's able to collect these toxins, and then it's able to turn them into a water-soluble form, which must be done in order to detoxify anything in our body. So it can then be safely removed either through the bile or the urine out of the body. And that's phenomenal.
do we know
That's
why? Do we know
phenomenal.
how that mechanism of action works?
Well, I don't. I haven't delved into
I mean,
the.
well, I'm yeah, because I'm thinking like it's amazing that chlorella actually inherently knows who the bad guys are.
And that's right. It
That
inherently knows who the bad guys are. It inherently knows. It will support the growth of the good bacteria quite significantly, because chlorella contains prebiotics. They have found in Japan that it increases the growth of the good guys up to 3 times faster than anything else. So I mean, that's why I bow down to chlorella, because nature has given us this super nutrition. As a naturopath, I've been researching nutrition and supplements for years and years, but I kind of glossed over chlorella.
So
And
did I.
when I was introduced, and when I was introduced to it several months ago and started researching, I realized this is a phenomenal product. You can give it to children, you can give it to your animals. It's safely taken. And, because we are dealing with so much damage in our gut, back to the glyphosate story,
Right.
and impaired our ability to absorb and assimilate, think about taking a source of nutrition that you can take as a powder, you can take as tablets, um, and it has the capacity to put all this nutrition back into our body in a way that's easily absorbed and assimilated. So not only are we getting this dense nutrition, we are getting the kind of nutrition that can help repair and regenerate and rejuvenate the body.
Well, and it's not just the microbiome. Let's not forget. You also talk about the other organs like the liver, and the fatty liver disease is rampant in North America. What about the liver?
Well, when you are able to use the nutrition to support detoxification, to support being an antioxidant, to deal with oxidative stress, to deal with inflammation that comes in the body from exposure to the toxins or to the lack of nutrition, uh, you're going to see results throughout the body and with all conditions. I mean, it's just raising the tide, so to speak, right? Everything's going to improve if you can give your body the combined benefit of dense nutrition and a detoxification process. Then you are really supporting the body to heal and regenerate and rejuvenate. And that's how I see it. It's just this dual action of giving the body a full complement of vital nutrition and the ability to pull the toxins out and then turn them into a water soluble form and remove them. That's quite unique.
It is very unique. We're going to have to wrap this up. We're running out of time. But earlier today, I had a conference call, a Zoom call with several health experts and a couple of doctors. And we were talking about the importance of being able to change your lifestyle and change your diet and get the right supplementation if you need it, if you're not getting it in your diet. But the question always comes up, well, how do you know what's a good quality supplement? You can't, I don't know, just saying, well, you need a good quality supplement. I think we need more information than that. And so I really want to touch on this part. As I mentioned off the top, I've known about chlorella for years, but I've always been sort of adverse to it because of the source, which would either be a vat or coming from Asia. I'm sorry, I just can't trust it. That's my healthy gut instinct. And when you came across this particular product and how they make it, I want to go into that before we run out of time. So talk about why Biogenesis is such a great manufacturer.
Okay, so first of all, chlorella was first utilized by the Japanese. There is a process involved to break down the cell walls, which is considered very hard, and to get access into the nutritional profile. So the Japanese first did that. The Japanese use chlorella quite a lot. A high percentage of their population use chlorella on a regular basis. So they were first in on the chlorella story as a source of nutrition. But Japan is pretty polluted these days. So then they moved over to Taiwan, and Taiwan is now a producer, but not a big island, and they produce it inside in these vats or whatever the process is, but it's inside and it's artificially stimulated, artificial sunlight, and you know that's the way it goes. I think that when anything is simulating nature, it's not quite the same as nature. So Biogenesis is a company that I was introduced to in Australia. They have created some unique things that allows to produce an exceptional, organic, clean form of chlorella. They've created ponds. Well, let me just say, the far north of Queensland, near the Great Barrier Reef, is pristine. The air is pristine, the water is pristine, plenty of sunlight, which is needed to make the photosynthesis for the chlorella to replicate rapidly. So it's the perfect environment to create algae. And they have been able to engineer a unique form of a pond that grows the algae outside in the sunlight, in the clean water, in the clean air, that replicates the flow of water in nature. So that's the first thing. So they're really unique in what they do with that. No one else in the world has this technology, and they have a unique technology that is able to what they call crack the shell without causing any oxidative stress of the nutrients within the chlorella. So you get this well, it's organic, it's nutrient dense, it's grown the way it should be grown. It's a very delicate process to be able to crack the shell, as they call it, to access all the nutrients, which is proprietary to them. And they're just a high integrity company that is really dedicated to producing the highest quality, the cleanest, the most nutrient dense, free of any of the toxins and chemicals. Because algae is so good at absorbing toxins, if it's grown in a toxic environment, it will hold those toxins inside. And then you have toxic exposure. So it has to be grown in a pristine environment, and preferably in nature, which is everything the Biogenesis product does.
Terrific. Well, I'm actually putting a link below this video. We are not an affiliate. We do not get any commission or paid from any product purchases, but I'll put the link below this video. I'm actually, we talked earlier about, it's dangerous to glyphosate, dangerous to animals, humans, the environment. I'm looking forward to doing the show on animal feed with chlorella. Like, that was
I actually I have that coming up.
So
for sure.
I'm really looking forward to that because of the methane problem, because, when we talk about animal feed, I'm sure the animals are not eating organic feed. I'm pretty sure that most cattle are not getting fed organic hay and organic stuff, especially when they're fattening them up in the cattle yards. So I'm certainly giving a little bit of this away, but if you're a carnivore, you want to tune into that program. And you might want to track down your local farmer and say, hey, you got to try this out. So we'll get more into that on that particular program, Sherrill. So, hey, thanks for this. Thanks for a great article. Another great article.
You're so welcome. It's great to be here. Thanks for what you're doing too, John.
All right, Sherrill. We will be talking soon. Thanks again to Dr. Sherrill Sellman for this update on chlorella and how you can detoxify your body of glyphosate, and of course all the other terrific health benefits of this particular brand, well, of chlorella, but in particular this clean version from Australia that we both love. Stay tuned. We've got more coming up in this series on chlorella as we do a deeper dive. In the meantime, I just encourage you to stay healthy. Bye for now.